Trust is reciprocal. You have to trust your teams and they have to trust you. It shows what's in your heart. So you have to be open, honest, transparent, and vulnerable with your teams. Good morning and welcome back to the podcast Leadership and You. I am your host, Emily Bias. And if you have not taken a minute to subscribe, like, and follow, please do so now. In previous episodes, we have gone over the book, The Leadership Challenge, and the 5 exemplary practices of effective leaders. We have gone over modeling the way, inspiring a shared vision, and challenging the process. Today, we are going to talk about enabling others to act. Leadership is all about building relationships. So we have to figure out how we foster collaboration amongst our teams. And the first step is to foster an environment of trust. Trust is reciprocal. You have to trust your teams and they have to trust you. It shows what's in your heart. So you have to be open, honest, transparent, and vulnerable with your teams. So how do you do that? Speak about yourself first. Be willing to put yourself out there, talking about your mistakes, your successes, prior experiences that you've had. Show your team that you're willing to be vulnerable with them and create a safe space to speak. You want to show your team that you care. Ask them questions as people, not only employees. For example, if you know of an employee that called out because their child was sick, when they come back, ask them how their child is doing. Are they feeling better? I had an employee once where her husband got into a car accident. And when she came back, I asked her, we had a conversation about it. I was able to give her some next steps with HR. And I also was able to give her the number and the website to our employee assistance program and explain to her more about the resources that are available to her there. This shows love and compassion for your team. And it shows that you care about them as a person before you care about them as an employee. As leaders, we want to share what we know with others. Teach your employees things that have been taught to you. Relay information about decisions that are in the works, projects, or changes that may be coming about. Be transparent with your team. This helps them feel included, valued, appreciated, and when change initiatives do come, it helps the change process be implemented easier because people have bought in. For example, I had a team that had long suggested improvements for the employee break room. The costs of the improvements were quite high, and they didn't see any movement from management to upgrade the break room. In explaining to them that the costs were high, explaining to them the decision that we had made to implement the improvements in phases to spread out the costs, they understood why they weren't seeing any changes. They understood that the changes were coming and they were more excited when the changes were implemented and they saw things happening. If you look at it from a biblical perspective, God has shown us that he delivers on his promises and has created in us hearts that can trust in him. When we trust in him, he always provides and he always delivers. For example, he entrusted Noah with directions on building the ark. Noah trusted God's command, and God followed through protecting Noah and his families, along with all the animals, from the flood that destroyed humanity. Another example is when Peter asked Jesus to prove it was him by allowing Peter to walk on water. Jesus told him to come, and while Peter was focused on Jesus, he walked to him on the water. Jesus told him not to be afraid and to trust in him, and Peter trusted Jesus as he walked on the water. Another way to foster collaboration with your team is to facilitate relationships. You have to create a common purpose and shared goals that require your team to work together in order to achieve them. Help your team members understand and see how each one of them contributes to the overall goal. For example, one of the places I worked at, there were various functions within the department. and every function depended on the other. I used cross training to train various employees in all of the functions so that they could understand how they impacted each other. In doing so, they saw and understood how each one had to collaborate and work together in order to achieve the productivity of the department daily. And this also lent to reciprocity. Each function depended on another. So rather than competing against each other, they understood they had to collaborate in order to achieve goals. It's also important to provide the time for face-to-face interactions, whether it's at work or outside of work. This is necessary for people to learn from each other, to build that trust and have those relationships that make it easier to collaborate. Doing team building exercises, for example, breaking up your team into smaller groups and giving them problems to solve that require them to work together to solve them. This helps them to trust each other and what they bring to the team to form solutions in order to solve the problems. In the Bible, we see that Jesus demonstrated how to facilitate relationships with others. Even when he was betrayed by Judas, he showed love and compassion. He didn't retaliate against him, and he didn't allow his disciples to do so either. He instructed us to love one another as he loved us. Together, we share the common purpose of spreading the gospel, as did his disciples. Through loving one another and utilizing our individual gifts, we work together to accomplish the Great Commission. Another way to enable others to act is to strengthen others. You have to encourage self-determination. As a leader, you have to listen to your team's ideas, listen to their concerns, and help them work through them. Give them the courage to step outside of their comfort zone. Provide choices for them. Let them decide what the best course of action is. And make sure that you give credit where credit is due. After all, you cannot be a great leader unless you have a great team. They are the ones that do the work that makes them successful and you successful as a leader. Therefore, give them the credit. Make sure that you create an atmosphere where they can try new things without fear of repercussions. Support them in the decisions that they make, whether they work out or not. Praise them when they succeed and have those constructive conversations with them when they fail. Own the decisions that you allow them to make as a leader and defend their position. Stand up for them when those failures happen. If you are giving a team member responsibility, make sure that you give them authority. What does that mean? If you are giving your team lead responsibility of ensuring a safety-first environment, for example, you want to make sure you give him the authority to hold team members accountable when they are being unsafe. You want to stand united with him and show the team that you support him and you are doing so because you care about their safety. Promote an environment where your team takes initiative when work needs to be done. Reward them, don't scrutinize them. When they go out of their way to fix something that was wrong, clean something that was dirty, or replace something that was missing. Urge them to take action when action needs to be taken and to ask for help when they need it to support each other in accomplishing goals. In the Bible, we see Jesus do this with his disciples. He gave them the responsibility to carry out his mission. To inspire believers and to create more followers, Jesus gave them authority and power to cast out demons, to heal diseases, and to preach the gospel. This showed the followers that Jesus was the true Messiah. Another way to strengthen your team is to develop their confidence and their skills. Train and teach your team members the work that they have to do. Show them how the work is done and then allow them to do it. Let them make mistakes. That's how they're going to learn. Make sure that they have all of the necessary information that they need for the work they need to do. Withholding key information can lead to poor decision making. Help them to take ownership of their job duties and make them feel good about their contributions toward the overall goals. You want to inspire them to be confident in themselves. You know their potential, so you may have to have pep talks with them and motivate them to take action. For example, if one of your team members comes to you with a great idea, encourage them to try it out. Stretch your team and challenge them to do what they think that they can't do, and then congratulate them when they succeed. Coach them through what they want to do, provide them with feedback, and ask them thought-provoking questions that they can reflect on and teach them what you know. From a biblical perspective, we see Deborah do this with Barak. She led him and his men into battle. Barak had hesitated when Deborah gave him God's command to attack Sisera's army. Barak felt that they had a disadvantage against Sisera's army. He was fearful and lacked the confidence in God's promise to deliver them. So he asked Deborah to go with him. Deborah supported Barak and went along, inspiring him to follow God's plan. So tell me, how do you enable others to act in your workplace? How do you foster collaboration? How do you strengthen your teams? How do you build up their confidence? Leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, peace, love, and leadership. God bless.